Welcome to Catholic Champion. This is your host, John Yap, my friend and fellow worker in the trench, Michael Hichborn. We have a great show today. We have another assassination attempt. What do you know? Talk about an attempt, that is. We have an October surprise from Tim Walz. And last but not least, we have the Biden-Harris administration setting up to be able to take kids out of parents' homes. We'll see in a bit. I misspoke. I said there was an assassination attempt, but turns out maybe not so much, right? So on Saturday, it's almost like, man, the muscle memory was already there about what you do when there's an assassination attempt on a front runner candidate, since we've had it twice now in the past 6 months. So on Saturday, or it was Sunday morning, we were told of it, rather.
Right.
And happened the day before, which also is a bit interesting that it didn't come out till the next day. That when Trump was doing his rally in Southern California, right to the belly of the beast in that typically blue state, there was someone who's arrested. Where were you when that happened, Michael? And what did you think right off the bat?
Well, I was coming out of Mass, and I usually, after we get out of Mass, we hang out in the social room, and I pull out my phone. I was just kind of checking my messages because I saw that I missed some, and I saw that there was an alleged third assassination attempt, and I thought, well, that's odd because today's October the 13th, obviously a Marian feast day. So
I went there too. Exactly, I was there right away.
So that was my first thought, but there were a lot of oddities about it from the get-go, because normally the Trump campaign would come out with a statement and say, okay, hey, there was this thing. Obviously, the rhetoric coming from the left is facilitating these kinds of problems, and this is why we need to beef up our security, etc. None of that. They didn't say anything along those lines, and they were actually kind of quiet at first, and we kept waiting for a statement, but nothing would come out. And then you told me that you were starting to hear rumblings from within the Trump camp that, there's something not right here. We don't really think it was an attempt. So there was something very strange about it from the outset. And then you had the sheriff, of course. The sheriff came out and he said, all right, here's the situation. We had a deputy who was checking people coming through this particular street, had a guy with two obviously fake passes, VIP passes. And then we found that he had a fake license plate on his vehicle. And they said that he had unregistered weapons in the back of the car, and they were. He said that they were loaded with high capacity rounds, whatever that means, and so that was odd. And what was even stranger is that, again, coming out of the Trump campaign, they were saying no, that's not what happened here. This isn't the case. But at the same time, they were, Trump was saying, hey, we applaud the local police. We think that they're doing a great job. So there's a strange disconnect with the information, with the facts as they were coming out. And then Vem Miller, who is the man who was accused, he came out with a statement. And his statement, I have to say, it was convincing. I watched body language. I listened to vocal tone. And he didn't have the appearance or the sound of somebody that sounded like they were lying or trying to get away with something. He was released on bond for $5,000 very quickly. So there's some sort of inconsistency with the facts going on related to this case.
Even the fact that he came out with a video so soon. If you're guilty or you're borderline guilty, common sense is like, just shut your mouth. Don't do any video yet until you talk to an attorney that gets an approved statement. So the fact that you had the sense, I'm just going to do video, wasn't worried at all. Smacks of innocence, right?
Yep.
As you mentioned, yeah, we posted, we thought right away about, okay, October 13th, significance of the day. And was this another survival? And pretty soon right afterwards, some of the people close to Trump, but just message us and let us know, like, heads up, this is probably a hoax. Where I thought Roger Stone did a really great summary just of the facts, clarifying who knows Ben Miller well. Roger, of course, spoke with us at our Catholics for Catholics rally in Mar-a-Lago, joining us on stage to pray the rosary. He said, okay, look, Ben Miller, false accused, planned to assassinate President Trump. Here are the facts. Firearms in his possession were legally owned and were locked in the trunk of his car. Okay. His license plates were neither fake nor expired. He had no fake passports. And his pass to the Trump rally was legit. He faces no federal charges and was not even questioned by the Secret Service or the FBI. He's a strong Trump supporter. He's a member of the sovereign. He's not a member of the sovereign citizen movement. In fact, on his video, he said, I don't even know what the heck that is. Does that even exist? And then the Riverside County Sheriff making accusations against him will face a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. Any thoughts, Michael, about why this is so weird? Like, what's going on? Why would they even do this?
The timing is odd, considering this weekend was also the same time that Governor Tim Walz was accused of having engaged in inappropriate relations with a young man while he was still a teacher. So
details, please. What is going on there? This is, people are calling it the October surprise here.
Right. So there's a Twitter account, a guy that calls himself the Black Insurrectionist. His YouTube or Twitter handle or X handle is @.docnet_YouTube. So this guy claims that he was contacted by somebody who was a student of Tim Walz's back in the 1990s. And he said that he had this information back in August, but he held the information back because he wasn't quite convinced. He thought that, maybe this guy was just making something up. But he came back with certain facts that checked out, certain times of Tim Walz being at a particular location, or the fact that there was an Indigo Girls concert that he was allegedly taken to by Tim Walz and his wife at a particular time when, yes, the Indigo Girls were exactly where he said they were going to be in his testimony. So there are certain facts that lined up. And so this X handle went ahead and posted the information. He came out with the facts, and he also included not just the statement from this young man, but he also included a photostat of the July 1st, 1996 meeting minutes from the Board of Education as they were trying to discuss what to do with Tim Walz. And one of the things that they had here in the item was it was resignations. And it said a motion was made by Aldinger and seconded by Moore to accept the resignations of Tim Walz, Gwen Walz, and Byron Green. The motion carried unanimously 6-0. Now, if a teacher resigns, you don't have to go to the school board in order to accept the resignation. That's just a fact. And what's more is that it wasn't just the resignation of Tim Walz because he was moving on to another job. His wife also resigned, which is very strange, very strange. So something must have happened.
Is this the same high school where he started an LGBT friendly boys club? Okay.
Yeah, it was the National Gay and Lesbian Alliance.
Right. And he was simultaneously the assistant coach of the men's football team, young men's football team, right?
Right. And they referred to him as Touchdown Timmy, and apparently that was a euphemism for his handsiness with some of the boys. And I don't know that we can read the details of this particular accusation, but they were pretty graphic about what Tim allegedly had done to him. And it was sexually explicit, and it was very clearly abuse if it's true that this is what happened. But again, as you read through the details, it doesn't read like something that someone made up. It does read like a memory account of something that had actually happened.
Especially when the minutes are noted in the school records. Is that now when they said the minutes were mentioned, was that from the testimony of the individual, or have the school records been actually brought to light to show that they're in the records?
So this was an actual copy of the school board minutes.
Wow.
And the school board minutes, now to be clear, the school board minutes didn't mention any reason as to why they were accepting the resignations of Tim and Gwen Walz. So there was no indication as to why that was happening, but the timing of it, in concordance with what allegedly had happened to this young man, seems to line up. And what's more is that when you look at the fact that both Tim and Gwen resigned with no reason given, and it was a resignation that was accepted by the school board. Now you have to remember, the school board doesn't usually handle resignations. Usually, if you're going to resign from teaching, you just go to the school and say, "Hey, guess what? I got a new job. I'm leaving. Sayonara."
Right.
And they just go ahead and sign off on it. It's a personnel matter. They don't have to go to the school board for this kind of thing, which strongly indicates that something happened, that this is incident related.
Okay, that's very significant. Okay, let's paint the picture. So it looks there's at least some credible storyline here that this individual may have been abused by Tim Walz, right? Makes a lot of sense based on other stuff as well. This is the same guy who started the LGBT friendly club at the high school, right? There's an accusation. Okay, keep in mind the creepy reality that this guy is also going to China at least once a year during this time with young people as well.
Where the age of consent is 14.
Yes. And there are photos too of him, some young people there, which, okay, do raise your eyebrows a bit. This individual, Tim Walz, could be the president of the United States if something happened.
Vice president.
Right?
Oh, if something happened to Kamala, yeah.
People got to know this. People got to be absolutely aware. I mean, it's crazy how we've kind of just given this a pass over that the current president, if he knows he's President Joe Biden, his daughter, her diary, right, which was released, basically said, like, my dad was grooming me. My dad showered with me, right? There's some serious, what seem to be sexual perversions here between these candidates the Democrat Party is putting forth.
Well, and the Hunter Biden laptop as well.
Right. The fruit did not fall far from the tree.
Yep.
And it's it boggles my mind too that, I mean, for so many other reasons too, but if anything, that someone could still be not decided yet about who to vote for or if even to vote. Michael, those the fact I want to point out something as well. The fact that this story has come to light when you started your piece off, you're saying, okay, where did you see it? Where did you see the news? X. Yeah. It wasn't Fox News. It wasn't CNN. It wasn't a major traditional cable news source. That's significant. No, we don't believe everything we see on social media all the time. We're not saying that at all. But if you look at the trend, even chronologically as well, a lot of the breaking articles appear first on the new media, right? And then Fox will do an article. There was a social media post, and this is what happened, and these are the details. It sends them to work. We have flip-flopped. Isn't that pretty crazy?
Oh, absolutely. Well, something else that needs to be pointed out is that there is currently only one source for this particular story.
Fair enough.
Which,
okay.
You know, to be fair, so we have to be very careful about how this information comes out. What I'm simply saying is that the news as it has come out seems credible. And it seems credible simply because of the way that things lined up and the fact that he obtained a copy of the school board minutes that shows the resignation to the school board. And by the way, I want to mention one again. I want to reiterate this. It says that the motion was made by one of the school board members, Aldinger, and seconded by Moore to accept the resignations of Tim Walz, Gwen Walz, and Byron Green. So again, I don't know anything about Byron Green. I don't know why he was listed there as well. But the school board doesn't get involved in resignations unless there's an incident.
Great point. Very, very well said. And this is not the, even a lot of sexual scandals that come out in the past 20 years, since obviously the Catholic Church was the first one in 2002. This is prior to that, right? So like late 90s, I believe you said it was, when standards just across the board, Catholic education, Catholic schools, and in public education, in terms of when there was a sexual accusation, a lot of times people just did not act fast enough, right? So this is pre that, which the fact that they were taking that significant step in, look, we probably got to ask for this guy's resignation, right? That was a pretty drastic, considering the time frame of when it happened in the 1990s. That probably leads to the assumption that this is probably pretty credible accusation. Right?
Yeah.
At the very least, what we are asking for, the American voter is asking for, especially, is that you take accusations on both sides at the same level of seriousness. For crying out loud, President Trump was dragged in front of the courtroom in New York, with a woman who accused him in a place where he probably never was. She said she was wearing a dress that wasn't even invented back then, right? And there's a $50 million lawsuit, Jean Carroll, So if that's what they're going
to do to Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And of course, the hashtag at the time was believe women. The hashtag was Me Too. And so this young man has come forward with an accusation against Tim Walz. So where's the left? Where's the left screeching about this, screeching bloody murder, saying, believe this young man?
Right.
Where are they?
That's right. It's, they're so usatory. This is so typical. It's the use and abuse mentality, right? The useful idiots, right? And the famous quote, was that Stalin or was that Lenin who said that? Useful idiots. Stalin. The left, they just take advantage of the current ignorant person to use them for the projected end. People are means to an end, right? The opposite of Christianity, right? Very common example thrown out there is the blacks, the African American community, right? How they've been just totally used. They were by the Democrat Party. They were lied to. Thankfully, they are waking up in droves. And
can you imagine if there was a Twitter accusation against JD Vance right now?
Oh my gosh! Right, absolutely, they'd be all over it.
You bet.
I mean, we know this. We say this all the time. The left's unfair. They're not but that's got to translate to reality. It's like people. There's so many of us it's so hard to break free from a pattern of thought, what you listen to, what you believe. Critical thinking is so dumbed down right now in today's society. It was just kind of funny. I was getting a coffee like 2 days ago, and I was going through drive-through that morning. Usually I get out, but I drive through, and there's this young kid, probably like 19 years old, tattoo on him, and I just decided to ask him, just, hey, off the spot, like, hey, you gonna vote? I was just thinking about, like, we gotta get every person registered to vote here in Arizona, like everyone, wherever you go, because every vote counts, right? And I said that, you gonna vote? He looks at me like, yeah, and he goes, Trump all the way. And like, I was thinking to myself, like, this guy doesn't know I'm a Trump supporter. Like, I don't know what made him think that. Was it because I'm driving a truck? Was it because I'm a young male? Was it because I have American flag in there? Or maybe was it I have a cross on the windshield? I don't know.
Maybe you were wearing that T-shirt.
Maybe I was wearing a T-shirt. The same Michael. There you go. Like, you barely see it. It's no, for whatever reason. But the next thing he said after was what told me so much. He said, he looked at me like, yeah, I'm not dumb. And then he proceeded to go through the list of why he's, how Trump is helping America, not perfect, whatever, but he's like doing the border, right? But the thing is, I'm not dumb. And I think that deep theological expression, phrase, that thought that he just uttered there about why he's voting for Trump says a lot about the more you know and truly know and get information, not from the traditional sources, which are just brainwashing people. That term is overused, but truly brainwashing people. You're going to know. You're going to see truth as it is.
Well, speaking of dumb, did you watch the interview last night with Kamala Harris and Brett Baer?
People have been telling me about it. You got to tell me about it because, like, I haven't had a chance to watch it. I've been a little under the weather the past 24 hours, and I saw Brett was going to do it. I'm like, all right, that's not going to be like anything to write home about. And then everyone's talking about it. So what the heck has happened? What happened to Kamala?
It was marvelous. Brett Baer asked her real questions, and she came off not only as completely unprepared with answers, but anytime he really kind of boxed her into a corner, her immediate fallback, her default position was, yeah, well, Trump was doing this. Yeah, well, Trump. And she had no answer to, well, what makes your campaign or what makes your presidency different from Joe Biden's? What makes your policies on immigration any different from what Joe Biden's been doing? And he boxed her into a corner. And then whenever she would start to flounder or try to get out of a particular question, he would fact check her right there on the source and say, okay, here's a tape of you saying this, or here's a tape of somebody saying that. And so she would come back, and the expression on her face almost every time was, I mean, it was really pretty incredible watching her in real time do the deer in the headlights look. He asked her one question, and I can't remember exactly what the question was, but it's like she had a malfunction in the brain, and she sat there with a blank expression on her face for a good 5 or 6 seconds. Just, well, and you could see she was looking for words that would stretch out the answer so that to slow down the interview, because she was trying to run the clock and just get all of her talking points in, which is how bad Trump is and how his policies are so horrible. And at one point, Brett Baer, and I think I mentioned this, he asked her, what makes your presidency different from Joe Biden's? Her response was to say that, well, she's not Joe Biden, and she's got different things. And he said, yeah, but, you've been in this position for 3 years. So why haven't you actually enacted any of the policies that you're talking about now? And she goes, well, Trump has been running for a campaign for 10 years. He's been at this for a decade. And he's like, yeah, but you're in power now. And so it was this bizarre.
He gave me the apple kind of deal.
Worse than that. It was because she couldn't defend her position and her work. She immediately had to go, well, Trump has been running for office. So what? A lot of people have been running for office. What does that have to do with anything? You're the one in the seat of power. And then she went on about how she was in these meetings in the control room, and they were having these meetings, and she was there, and she was the last one to leave. And what changed? What happened? She had nothing. She had absolutely nothing. It was very obvious from the get-go that all she wanted to do was run the clock with the regular gobbledygook that she usually spills out of her mouth and get her talking points in about how bad Trump is. That was her whole aim, and it backfired big time. She looked like an absolute moron.
When you are operating from a position where you're not truly seeking truth, or you're not speaking truthful things, you come across very parrot-like, right? Robotic, sound phrases, right? Sound bites. Where on the other side, you see like J.D. Vance did that interview with New York Times. He walked in the same trap. I mean, liberal host, and it was like a 2-hour interview. And man, that guy was just on it. He was just great interview, never got worked up, knew how to throw back the punches, and just talked total opposite of a parrot. The prime example for me always is Joseph Ratzinger, right? Who the guy's intellect is so there that the famous book Salt of the Earth that he did, which is an interview with Peter Seawald, that was I don't know if it was one sitting or a couple sittings, but he never brought any notes to that. It was just, he didn't know the questions in advance, by the way. Peter came, said the question, Ratzinger gave the answer like that, and just left it there. He didn't even go back and edit anything. He's like, all right, you edited it up. Make sure it's like, no, dot the I's, cross the T's. But I think it just shows that when you're coming from a position of truth, you're able to talk freely. You don't have those blank stared moments. I mean, stage right's one thing, but what we see in Kamala is completely the opposite, which should scare people. We're not really getting the full picture of what she really thinks.
I just remembered what the question was that Brett Baer asked.
Yeah,
he asked her about all the money that's going overseas, and yet the people in North Carolina are still suffering. They're not getting the aid. They're not getting, they're not even getting the funds that they need to rebuild. And that's where she had this like total deer in the headlights look on her face. And then you could tell just from the sound of her voice, her pitch went up, her body language stiffened, which all of these were indicators of a high degree of stress, that she felt like she was being interrogated, and she suddenly was on stage and she didn't know her lines. So her response, as she was kind of looking for words to say, you could hear in the tone of her voice, way up here, well, I feel sorry. I'm sorry for these people. And he asked her, he also asked her about the people that were the young ladies that have been killed by migrants that have been brought into this country under her watch. And she would say that she's sorry for their loss. And he said, do you owe them an apology? I'm sorry for their loss. Now, wait a minute. That's not an apology. That's not an apology. You're just simply echoing a platitude. That's nothing. That's nothing. So she, and she tried stretching that out. It's almost like she did not expect to get any questions like this at all. And so this speaks not only to her team, but it also speaks to her as an individual. And if you're studying the stress level of somebody who is running for candidacy for president, what you want is somebody who can handle stress, somebody that can handle a hostile environment and redirect it to their position, to hold court, to be the one in the position of power. And she was on the defense the entire time, and she acted defensively. She lashed out. She was angry. She was stressed. She wanted to get out of there. And Brett Baer said after the interview that her staff 4 times throughout the interview tried waving the interview dead. Really? And they wanted desperately to end that interview.
Brett said that?
Yes.
He said that. So he's interviewing Kamala. I know. And they're distracting him, like, end it, cut.
I even mentioned, my wife and I were watching it, and at one point he asked her a question, and you see his eyes kind of dart off stage, and he goes like that. And I said, somebody on stage is saying, hey, cut the interview. They want this to end. And then he came out later, and that's exactly what happened.
That's crazy. Wow, that is really something. I mean, it's this for me. Okay, she can't handle herself. She stutters. She doesn't have answers clear. She's probably lying. What does that mean, though? It means that obviously we're not getting the full picture, but probably there's someone else behind her that's pulling the strings that has put her there, right? I mean, for crying out loud, she didn't get even 1 vote, essentially, right? And now she's the front runner, right? They destroy the primaries of the Democrat Party, right? So this is scary stuff. Now, you might be like a critic, okay, Hichborn, yep, shut up, like stop talking about just personality stuff. Who cares about the sexual stuff or whatever? Come on, we want policies. That's what we should determine about when we vote candidates because Trump's passed, blah, blah, blah. Well, a couple things. Would that the American population would just vote on policies alone? But guess what? They don't, okay? A lot of them are emotional. Politics is emotions. And so if you want to talk about emotions, the personalities of people and character, well, there you go. I mean, this is a snapshot of a little bit what you see here, right?
Well, and to add to your point, this was her opportunity to tell her exactly what those policies would be. She had nothing.
It's
She had
true.
absolutely nothing. Her only policy position was that Donald Trump is a failure and Donald Trump is going to be a disaster for America. That was her policy.
Mhm.
Everything about how to handle the immigration crisis. Brett Baer tried desperately to get her to actually explain what she would do differently than what's been done for the previous 3 years. And he tried to get her to explain what her policy would be. And she had nothing to explain. She just kept defaulting to, well, Donald Trump did worse. Or, I'm not Joe Biden, so we'll do something different. And he would even ask, what would you do differently? And she would just resort back to her word salad about, some ambiguous policy that she doesn't have. And then she would refer at the very end, hey, if anybody wants to know what we really stand for, we've got 80 pages on our website. And she listed the website. It's like, well, why couldn't you state that here? That's what the whole interview was for.
Man, that brings to mind a phrase we learned in philosophy. Evil is a privation of the good. It's like it doesn't exist per se. It exists in a vacuum as just in opposition to the good, right? That's what
right.
So you almost see that played out in a smaller way here with their left's whole line has been to attack Trump, attack Trump, attack. It's like, well, who are you guys? What are you going to do? Now, it's our job to talk about those policies that she's going to try to put in place since she's not. Let's talk about one that should scare every single parent because this goes against a fundamental right that we have as human beings, the rights of parents. It's why it's number 3 on our Catholics for Catholics voter guide. The rights, the parents are higher than what the state may think. Title of the article: Biden-Harris administration paves the way for bureaucrats to take gender-confused kids from non-affirming parents. Whoa! What do we got here? Okay, so here's the story. Transphobia is child abuse. Alex Roque, who runs the Ellie Forney Center for Homeless LGBTQ plus youth in New York City, asserted on the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services webinar last fall. In less than 3 minutes, he cast a vision for completely transforming child protective systems nationwide. Family rejection of a child's gender identity cannot be dismissed as a personal view, he argued. Non-affirmation must be treated as abuse. Quote, if they were denying them food or denying them access to school or denying other things, there would be headlines. There would be prosecution. Among gender activists, the Biden-Harris administration has enlisted to shape its policies. Roque's definition of abuse is not fringe, and his vision for reshaping the system is not hypothetical. Let me stop there. Whoa. It's not the first we've heard about this, but people will talk about it enough. You're right. Essentially, you have we saw this coming, right? You can see their playbook from a mile away, right? So you got. I mean, you called it. You saw it coming, right, Michael?
You bet. Well, I mean, Kamala's past policies when she was in California, plus the policies of Tim Walz while he was governor of Minnesota. Their disposition is geared toward LGBT youth or alleged LGBT youth, which does call for an ability to take these kids away from parents should they, have a disagreement with their parents. If little Timmy comes home and says, no, mom and dad, I'm not Timmy anymore, I'm Tammy. And, mom and dad say, that's ridiculous. Stop being absurd and look at your biological reality. That's not true. Well, now the state, what they want to do is give the state the power to take those kids away from the parents so that the state can raise the kid and change their sex by putting them through a gruesome surgical procedure, put them on hormones that'll likely sterilize them. And they of course will say, well, if they change their mind later on, these hormones may, you can reverse the effects. No, you can't. You can't. And there are plenty of people that have gone through this as because puberty blockers are in effect. And then once puberty's over, it's done. You're not reversing this. It's not like you can do reverse hormone therapy and change things around. So They want to take away parents' rights. They want to affirm, but really it's indoctrinate young kids into believing that there's something that they're not.
Let me bring to people's memory, refresh here, our beloved Chloe Cole, right? She spoke at a rally for Catholics. She's a great friend of the organization. She, 17-year-old girl now, or 18, and she went through the whole process, right? Starting at 13. She took the lie. She took the transition, the hormones, and did, the full surgery later on. Now, she obviously regrets it. She's a warrior for truth now. She's come around, and she's a beautiful young girl. She posted an awesome picture on social media the other day, just like of herself in a dress, and just said, wow, I never thought I would be able to do this again and have enough, like, just security and confidence in myself to do that, right? So amazing to see. And obviously her external beauty is just a fraction of what we see with that soul and how beautiful she truly has become. Anyway, my point is, Chloe would not have undergone that whole horrible abuse if her parents had not signed off on it. They too were lied to. They had to give permission, right? They regret it now, thankfully. But what the Biden-Harris Tim Walz regime is seeking to do is to take you parents out of the picture and to take the kids away, right? Yeah. Don't believe us? This isn't just a story. This has already happened, right? We had a case in Idaho with this was divorced parents, and they made they tried to play out parents off each other, right? And the poor kid's already caught in the middle of the divorce, so he doesn't know what to believe, and they're taking this kid. Another case in Indiana as well. This specific article that I believe it's Caitlin from Daily Caller, it came out of Cuyahoga County. Here are the specifics. While crafting its foster care rule finalized in April, HHS officials, Health and Human Services, took inspiration from social workers in Cuyahoga County, Ohio, who spent years pioneering a program that strong arms parents into affirming whatever confused beliefs children express about their gender. Parents who decline risk losing a voice in their child's life. The program developed in Cuyahoga County uses federal grant funds provided the HHS Administration for Children and Families with an ideal model for infusing gender ideology into foster care and social services. The Daily Caller discovered in reviewing hundreds of documents. In other words, they're using money now, the money that they have, our tax dollars, to go around the back door and pressure these foster care agencies and say, like, look, you want this federal grant money? Here's the agenda you got to follow, right? You got to start looking and pressuring parents to accept the care, right? So it's like it's leveraging the funds to achieve a political end. Isn't that how you see it?
Well, of course. I mean, when you start using the public coffers to push an ideological agenda on the people that you're supposed to be leading, this is usually what we call dictatorship, where the leader is then dictating to the people exactly what the people are supposed to believe, and if they don't believe it, well, you're going to start using their funds and their assets against them. So this is the very hallmark.
This is the HHS, the same administration that went after a lot of our companies early.
Sure. Yeah. Just look at Kathleen Sebelius when she was the head of HHS, right. And she was, she used that agency to partner up with Planned Parenthood in order to protect Planned Parenthood from a lot of the fraud that they were perpetrating on the people. Because one of the things that came out back in, I think it was 2008, 2009, was that Planned Parenthood was fraudulently signing or signing for checks to come from the federal government to cover for their costs. And they were filling out these things, and it was clearly fraud. They were found fraudulent in Arkansas, for instance. And Kathleen Sebelius was the one who in the Department of Homeland or Health and Human Services was the one who helped cover it up. So this is not new, it's not new because it's just another sign of corruption, and the corruption almost always comes from one side of the aisle.
Parents, if you're watching, they hate you.
Yes.
They do. They do. They hate you. They think that you do not have a right, ultimate right over your children that God has given you.
Well, why was it that Hillary Clinton said that it takes a village to raise a child? What did she mean by that? What she meant is that it takes a community, okay, communal raising to raise a child, which means that parents have no rights. This goes back a long ways, and it's part of the communist agenda.
And it's coming to fruition in very,
Yep.
very concrete, very brutal policies. Talking about taking the kid and forcing, or the kid ultimately take these life-changing hormones, poison, okay, destroying these kids. It's sick. It also explains the left's aversion to homeschooling, right? Because they can't have ultimate control over you. They want to educate your kids, which belongs to ultimately the parents.
That's exactly it. They not only want to educate your kids, they want to indoctrinate them. They want them to become good little automatons so that they'll vote properly.
That's it. Communism. That's what we mean when we say communism is invading our country. Okay.
Yep.
Let's talk about another way aside from the transgender agenda that they're trying to pressure or subject the rights of the parents of the state. This happened in California, and this is covered on War Room by Monica Crawley. She was interviewing filmmaker Joel Gilbert, okay, who was shining light on what Kamala was like when she was Attorney General there in California, right? We already know she went after David Daleiden with a vengeance. This is what she did to some black families in California. Let me explain. Monica Crowley and filmmaker Joel Gilbert criticized Kamala's actions during her time as California's AG. Gilbert describes how Harris prioritized increasing state funding by aggressively targeting truancy. What is that? Kamala Harris authored a law to put parents in jail if their kids missed 10% of school days. Okay. Right. This policy disproportionately impacted black families, with Gilbert highlighting the case of a nurse. This is a crazy case. I mean, breaks your heart. The nurse's name is Sharif Peoples, whose daughter, suffering from sickle cell anemia, frequently missed school for medical reasons. Despite medical documentation, Peoples was arrested and prosecuted under Harris's policy. Like the girl, she was like 10 years old at the time. She would have to go to the emergency room, a few times a month. It was just really, really tough situation, which that sickle cell anemia it's just disproportionately found in the black community as it is.
Right.
So Gilbert claims Harris lacked empathy and understanding, especially towards black communities. Kamala has no experience in common with the black and blah, 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 right? How about that? Isn't that crazy?
Well, it is crazy, but it also shows how she will elevate ideology over people. And she will use this. And one of the things that she said consistently in her interviews is how tough she was on crime, how tough she was on border crossings when she was, in California. But when you start digging into these cases and you start looking at what she was actually doing, she was incarcerating people that were falsely accused and wrongly prosecuted. And she was doubling down and preventing them from getting out of prison or fighting against, actually appealing to get their case reheard so that it would be known, hey, look, this was falsely prosecuted to begin with. So her ideology is to oppress and to use the government to keep the people under her thumb. That is her ideology. And she will use any means possible to lay that pressure down. And if she ever gets into the president's seat, don't think that she's going to take her foot off the gas. She's going to be doubling down, and that pedal is going to be all the way to the floor, and nobody's going to be able to pry it off.
Sick. This poor family, Sharif, the mom, eventually had to go to jail.
Yep.
And while she was in jail, her 11-year-old daughter had a stroke from the stress of the situation.
Yep.
This is Kamala. Okay, this is your vice president right now, who could be the president of the United States. These are dictator tendencies.
Yeah.
Okay. Supported by a communist philosophy. And her VP, who's running, as we just talked about with his potential October surprise, could be a sexual predator. Okay. And going over the dictator tendencies, this is the same guy who established a snitch program in the middle of COVID, right? Where you could report your neighbors if you were singing at church or crazy stuff like that too. Okay. It's
right out of Soviet era tactics.
This is who you got in front of you, people. Like I'm sure obviously most of us listening here are obviously on the same page of what we're saying here. But okay, but here's what we have to be doing. We've got to be talking. You've got to know how to articulate these in quick sound bites, pick up your coffee at the drive-through moments to individuals. Every single vote counts. And it's not just about voting. You are in a quasi way evangelizing because you're bringing truth to these people in mind. The truth will set these people free. We have got to be talking and getting the word out because the mainstream media is the traditional sources. It's everywhere. It's just totally brainwashing our society.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And that's unfortunately where we are. And hopefully God will preserve us from that. But that's exactly what we're facing.
And the last bastion, one of the last places where people can get the message without electronics or digital stuff is sitting in the pew at church via the homilies. Now, we're not asking the priest to be quote unquote political, but they can say a lot and they can educate the people. So we need our priests to be standing up very boldly. Charlie Kirk referenced one of my local pastors here 2 weeks ago, just because of his stance and how he's been talking about the abortion, Prop 139. Like, way to go, Father Klein. And we just need more priests like that speaking up dead on because that's the people need to hear this.
You bet.
Is it time for our X post of the week, Michael? What do you got for me? What's the video or surprise you're going to show me here?
All right. So X post of the week. Let's see. Why don't we go with this one first?
From Charlie.
Here we have, this was at Ethel Kennedy's memorial, and Barack Obama and Joe Biden had a very heated exchange, as you can see here in the video. And the New York Post hired a professional lip reader to analyze what was being said. And the two statements that they got, Biden was saying, she's not as strong as me, meaning Kamala Harris, meaning she's not as strong a candidate. And Obama, what the lip readers were able to glean, said, I know, that's true. We have time. So we have time. It's 20 days. What does he mean we have time? What is he planning to do? I don't know. But there's a second part to this, and I want to show there's a funny...
Can I comment now, or do you got to wait for the second piece?
Wait for the second piece. Wait for the second piece.
So is Kamala doing okay?
Nope. She's down, Joe. I think they found out that she's retarded, and now we're basically... Trump is killing us at the polls, so yes, we're going to lose Joe.
Damn it. Wait. What if I come back to run again?
As candidate?
Yeah.
Well, let me put it this way, Joe. The only person in this world who is even more than Kamala Harris is basically you. So no, Joe,
on, man.
You're not going
give
back
another
yet.
Shot.
Let's let it all play out. Okay, we'll talk later, Joe.
Okay.
Unbelievable. It's funny, but it's so true because no one in the right mind believes that he's really calling the shots there, right?
Right. Yep. There is a rumor, and it's not a very feasible rumor, but there is a rumor that the Democrats are going to try to dump Kamala and put somebody else in her place. But there is nothing that they can do. Her name is already printed on ballots in the vast majority of the states in this country and cannot be changed by law. So there's really nothing they can do. There's really almost nothing they can do. I don't know what they would plan to do. Why Obama would say there's still time. Maybe he just means there's still time for us to continue campaigning, and hopefully we just hope for the best for them. I don't know, but it was a strange statement. It was a strange thing. And I thought that the fake audio that they put in there was pretty funny.
Now I saw the first part before. Now I thought that was a joke. I didn't know they hired a professional lip reading service.
Yes.
I mean, that's huge. That is huge. And I think there is more to what President Obama said with "we have time." What does that mean? Is the time referencing the 2.5 weeks we have left till the election? Is time after, if Trump does win, and what they do to stop him from taking office? Not crazy. Jamie Raskin, a Maryland congressman, saying that they're going to try to stop Trump from taking office. So what does it mean we have time? Very, very interesting what's going on right now in the interplay. I mean, I can't just jump without referencing Ethel because it was her funeral. And just as far as I know, she was a Catholic warrior till the end and tried to live her faith out. So may she rest in peace, and really pray for the Kennedy family because they need it right now, especially RFK with what he's been doing. So, Charles, throw my post up on the post of the week. Go for it. Boom. Check that out. Yes, it's true. You are looking at a post from President Donald Trump. This is not from the USCCB. This is from Trump, okay? What's he saying? This is released yesterday, and it's referencing this Saturday. I said, this Saturday, October 19th, is the 40th anniversary of the martyrdom of Father Jerzy Popoluszko, a truly great Catholic priest who was the source of tremendous spiritual strength for the Polish Solidarity movement and indeed the entire nation of Poland. Yesterday in Chicago, I was honored to sign a commemoration about this solemn anniversary and present it to Father Jerzy's nephew, Marek, as well as receive from him a book of Father Jerzy's sermons and other beautiful mementos to remember the life of this extraordinary man of virtue. Check that out. You flip it back to the main screen. So, I mean, Michael, I mean, how about that for a post from the president? Even like the direct quotes are when the actual statement that he signed has some even better statements. He says, Father was a Roman Catholic priest, a Polish patriot, champion, heroic messenger of the gospel, who sacrificed his life for God, country, and the people who lived till yearned in freedom. What do you think about that when you saw that?
Well, I mean, I saw it when it first happened, and I was stunned. Not only, and it's another in a long line of accolades and promotions with regard to the Catholic Church that has been coming from the Trump camp, and Donald Trump himself. He wished Our Lady happy birthday on the feast of Our Lady's birthday. He posted the St. Michael prayer on the day of St. Michael's feast day, a Catholic feast. And here he's singing the praises of a Polish priest, Catholic Polish priest, who is up for canonization because of his stand against communism. And I don't know what's happening in what's stirring in his soul. I can't speak to that, but it seems very clear that he is recognizing a truth and he is attracted to that truth. Please God that he sees it through all the way to the end and comes in. But as it stands, it's very clear that Our Lady is working on him in some way, shape, or form. Agreed.
Let me throw another thing at you. There's been a lot in his vocabulary for a while now. When he paints the foe, he has used the term neo-Marxist, communist. We have him raising up to the worldview. This example, Father Jerzy, who died fighting communism. In fact, his exact quote was, "This guy refused to bend to the knee of sinister lies and the deceit of Marxism." End quote from Trump.
Right.
It's fair to say that this trend that he's had in his everyday parlance could in some way, shape, or form be helped by Melania. Now, we've already addressed Melania where she's not in line with Catholic teaching or comments a few weeks ago about abortion, but could this be a positive impact? She is from Slovenia, okay? Anybody from Eastern Europe who's like over 40 years old, right, is going to have that very, very clear what Marxism is like and well, it is. Could that potentially be her influence on her husband about who this foe is?
It could be. There's no doubt that the wife has a lot of influence on the husband. Obviously, she has some ideological disconnects with the Catholic Church's teaching on morality, pretty serious ones.
Yep.
But she's still at least culturally Catholic, and I think that the other thing was that Donald Trump had accepted a brown scapular at one of his rallies. So you have all these little indicators. There is grace in this whole situation. The question is, how closely aligned is he going to make himself with that grace, and how open and accepting of that grace is he going to be? And it may be that grace comes with a martyrdom of sorts. I don't know, but I do think Melania is influencing him somehow. I think that he's got a lot of people on his staff that are also influencing him. And I think that they also have a very strong Catholic disposition. So how it plays out is anybody's guess. Please God that he does come, he does agree with that grace, and he cooperates with it.
It's a combo. President Trump is influenced, but then again, he's not. He's his own man. I was reminded by this 4 days ago. I was chance to talk to Anthony Dolan, who was the speechwriter for President Reagan for 8 years.
Oh, wow.
Wrote the Evil Empire speech. And we were talking about Trump. Except one of the questions I asked, so did you write the famous Warsaw speech when Trump was talking, back in 2017 when he went there and talked about the Polish people about we want God. He brought that up, and he said, no, I didn't. In fact, someone else in the DC circle, very high up, called me and said, was this you that wrote this? This sounds very Reagan-esque. And Tony or Anthony Dolan says, no, this is Trump's. Yeah, he's got speechwriters, but Trump is Trump. Never, he is his own man, right? So it's a combination of, influence and also just his own person, right? Which has helped so much for where we are today. We have reached the end of our show. This is Catholic Champion. Now, I got to tell you before we break, you're not going to want to miss the Patriotic Rosary this Sunday. It's going to be epic, okay? Every Sunday is epic because it's the Rosary, but I don't know if it'll top our 2 weeks ago when we had Marcus Allen, the FBI whistleblower. We interviewed him, and he prayed the Rosary with us. And then we got banned off YouTube. And then the House Judiciary Committee went to bat for us and pressured YouTube. Pray for YouTube, by the way. Pray for their good channel. We're using their platform. We're grateful for them, right, and what they're doing for allowing free speech on there. But we're grateful that they put the video back. But in any case, we have a great one coming up, and it's following all the protocols which our social media platforms give us. So there's no worry there this coming Sunday. But we're going to have hopefully a pro-life warrior who's going to give inside story of what it's been like to go to prison for what she believes in. Okay, wow. So don't miss that. Okay, and then pray. I'm asking for prayers. Next week I'll be with President Trump and some faith leaders from around the country, and we're going to be in out east. And please pray that we can help. Be that support for the president and let him know also our concerns that we might have, and so that this nation can truly become great through return to God. We want God. As the Polish people said, so are we saying that. Last thoughts? Last word, Michael?
No last word. Just keep trucking.
Vote. Fight. Sounds like a plan. Let's do this. We'll see you next week, same time. Thank you, everyone. God bless you.